competitive cost, we must produce in scale. That is commonsensical. You want to be competitive, you want to sell and compete in the world, you have to compete. You cannot compete if you're not producing in scale. And in the Philippines, we have to understand also our terrain. We have to understand that compared to Vietnam, compared to Thailand, compared to their geography, we are a more hilly and mountainous country. We have less arable land compared to them. And I think, I'm sorry to say this, regardless of where you stand on what you believe in with land reform, but I personally believe that when we started cutting up our lands into smaller and smaller parcels of land, we made it more difficult for ourselves to produce in size, in scale. So paano ka lalaban sa ibang mga merkado? Paano ka lalaban sa mga competitors mo? Mas malalaki ang lupa nila. They can produce in scale. They can produce with better cost. Then we have to understand, not only is our country very unique in the way we are, our geography is. You have to understand also where we are in Southeast Asia. We are the country that absorbs and meets the vagaries of climate change today. By the time typhoons reach continental Asia, they are just strong weather disturbances. But when we in the Philippines meet these weather disturbances, these tropical cyclones, they are cyclones and they are typhoons. And we absorb the vagaries of climate change. These are realities. These are realities. And it is therefore no surprise, ladies and gentlemen, that despite Republic Act 10,000, that requires all commercial banks to set aside 25% of their loanable amounts to be lent into agricultural activities, agri-agra, 15% for agricultural, 10% for agrarian reform activities. It is no surprise, ladies and gentlemen, that all the banks pay 1.5 billion pesos in penalties every year. They would rather pay penalties rather than lend to us in agriculture. And despite all of that, when they say that it seems that Philippine agriculture is not bankable, despite all of that, it begs the question why we are not doing enough to ensure that we have a robust financing architecture. Oh, I can see Ma'am Edna Atienza there of the Agricultural Guarantee Fund pool. She's actually benefiting from that because when the banks pay the penalties, it goes to PCIC and it goes to the AGFP. And they are both putting that money into good use, and we can discuss that later. But that's my point. You want to compete, but you don't produce in scale. Your country is designed in such a way that it's very costly. That we are an archipelago, ladies and gentlemen, 7,000 islands. That's why to transport food from island to island cost a lot. Binabagyo ka pa. And despite that, why is it, we should ask ourselves, why is it that we do not have a very robust agriculture financing system? And we cannot have a robust agriculture financing system if we don't have a risk transfer mechanism system. That means a very strong crop insurance program. It begins there. There are, of course, other mitigating mechanisms na pwede natin gawin, that we can erect. But one of the most critical ones is crop insurance. To the farmers there, I would like to ask, do you think, tanong ko sa mga magsasaka, tatanong ko sa mga magsasaka, happy ba kayo sa crop insurance program ng Pilipinas? We believe that it is the best that we can do. Because in many parts of the country, pag umiikot ako, pag nagtatanong ako ng crop insurance, maraming sumasagot, hindi nga nila alam kung anong crop insurance. Hindi pa sila nakakatikim kung anong crop insurance. They complain that when you talk about crop insurance, they have already been damaged and savaged. The adjuster is not yet finished in computing the losses. And then another typhoon comes and wipes them out. But what we have learned together, especially with the work of UNDP, is that there is another way of doing this. There is such a thing as parametric insurance. There is such a thing as measuring the parameters of temperature, water, heat, wind, and how it affects crops. Because all of these factors affect how crops grow. And when they affect crops grow, while crops are being damaged, it is possible that we begin paying farmers out. And we have to move away from the current system. Because the current system is peril or indemnity-based insurance system. What happens is, you meet an accident, parang kotse, hihintayin mo mabangga ka, you will get into an accident, then you will ask an adjuster, and then you will argue with the adjuster, and then you will hope to be paid. But this system cannot be in agriculture. Because we know that through time, as the weather impacts on the crop is being affected, and as it is suffering damages, a farmer can in fact be paid along the way. And in a situation like ours, where you need to adjust and adapt and be flexible, a farmer needs to be paid along the way as he is being damaged. That is not possible with our current insurance system. If we're going to treat our agricultural crop insurance system the way we treat a car insurance program, like a general, a TPM, or a comprehensive insurance plan, then that will not work. And at least, I'm happy to note in this concluding conference that the UNDP, together with the Department of Agriculture and the Philippine Crop Insurance, has started a pilot program in Mindanao where they have insured through a parametric system a few thousand farmers, and they were able to make payouts, and they have shown that it can work. For people who think that this system is rocket science, you are wrong. This is not rocket science. This is being done in Africa. Many of us think of Africa and we think of the forest. We think of the game reserves. We think of wild animals. We think of people still hunting with bows and arrows and spears. But that is not true. Africa is very advanced in parametric insurance systems. In fact, in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, they are actually leading the way in cryptocurrencies. For those of you who are following Bitcoin, who are following these virtual ledgers, for those of you who are following blockchain technologies, they are exchanging currencies in Kenya using blockchain technology and Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. But they are very advanced. For the LGUs who are here, you can look to Mexico. In Mexico, the LGUs are paying their own money to make sure that when the vagaries of the weather, when the index is breached, the local governments have something to pay out to the farmers for those who are affected by climate change. For somewhere closer in India, I hope we can all go together to India I hope we can all go to India to look at what they're doing there. In India, hundreds of thousands of farmers are also being paid using this kind of a system. And during the ASEAN conference, I had the chance to meet the Prime Minister Modi. And in his talk in KBS, that's what he was harping upon. He wanted to increase infrastructure support and also risk mitigating instruments like crop insurance. And so at this point in time, as we are discussing along the way, there are many problems that affect agriculture because of the uniqueness of our situation. But we cannot solve everything at the same time. I always tell people, there is no one single silver bullet to solve agriculture. There are many things that have to work together. We are just talking about one. We did not talk about extension this afternoon. We did not talk about technology. We have not talked about irrigation and water and power. We have not talked about mechanization. We have not talked about infrastructure extensively. If we will have to talk about everything, we will take 1 week. We are just focusing on finance, agricultural finance. Because in a country like ours, that is affected by the weather, the great challenge for all of us is our ability to give the financial support as the damage happens to the farmer, to allow him to rescue the situation or to allow him to plant again. Yun ang problema eh. Fractured na yung lupa mo, binabagyo ka na, wala pang handang magpahiram ng pera sa'yo at that time when you need it the most. But through that 3 months that you are growing your crops, as your crop is being affected,